Hello. Welcome to a type of video I've never done. This is probably going to be my longest video yet. Anyway, with the new Muse album on the way, I wanted to make a guide for new fans, and also old fans who might not know some stuff about Muse. I spent so long reading the Muse wiki page and taking notes. I have never taken such in-depth notes on a topic before. My brain is fried. Also, I'm so happy I was able to incorporate this man's voice into my videos. Lol. Anyway, without further ado, buckle your seatbelts, get your red sunglasses and your red tux suits and leopard prints ready, because this is an unhelpful guide to Muse. Pain. Okay, so first off, Muse is a British rock band formed in 1994 in Teignmouth, England. You've probably heard songs like Madness, Starlight, Uprising, Supermassive Black Hole, and Time Is Running Out. There are 3 members: Matt, Dom, and Chris. The band's lineup has always been the same, and has never changed since their formation. Their music is influenced by a lot of genres including classical, electronic, Latin music, and many other genres. They have 8 studio albums with their 9th on the way. They have 2, well technically 3 live albums. I say technically 3, because they also have a compilation album of B-sides, that also has a live portion to it. They have a bunch of concert movies that showcase concerts of theirs throughout their different eras. Muse is known as one of the best live bands. Though I've never seen them live myself, I can see why this is said about them. They're actually one of the 12 only acts to ever sell out Wembley Stadium. They did it for 2 nights in a row in 2007. Anyway, let's move on to the members themselves. The big 3. Okay, so let's start with Matt. Matthew James Bellamy was born on June 9, 1978 in Cambridge, England. He is a lead singer, guitarist, and pianist for Muse. He is a triple threat lol. Anyway, he started playing piano at the age of 6.
That was actually my first performance I ever did actually.
And started playing guitar at the age of 11. He said that some of his guitarist influences are Jimi Hendrix, and also Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. He has a vast collection of guitars made by one guitar manufacturer called Manson Guitars. His piano playing is influenced by Chopin. He has a tenor vocal range. His vocals span from G♯2 to a C♯6, although in studio recordings his vocals have only gone up to a G♯5. But also in some live shows he has gone higher. Matt actually wasn't originally going to be Muse's vocalist, since when forming the band, they were looking for a 4th member to be their vocalist. Matt is very energetic on stage. He used to always mess around with the other members on stage, but has stopped, and instead just throws his guitars around. He is also a shepherd. He once had a thing for tracing his veins for a while. But, most importantly, he is a fashion icon. Dominic James Howard is Muse's drummer. He was born December 7, 1977. He and Matt became friends after Matt saw his band play, and later met him on a beach shore, and asked him if they could be friends, which, by the way, is very wholesome. Anyway, apparently Dom shared his Amiga computer with Matt, so that also helped, I guess. Ha 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 ha. Dom also has said he can't sing to save his life. Although he has sung in studio tracks like Supermassive Black Hole, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, and other songs. Dom has often gotten hit by Matt's guitars many times.
Oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
Dom is also a fashion icon, lol.
No, 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 no.
Christopher Tony Wolstenholme is Muse's bassist. He was born on December 2, 1978 in Rotherham, England. He is 6'1". Chris learned to play guitar at a young age, and then he learned to play drums. He played drums for a local band called Fixed Penalty, which, by the way, is a very funny band name for no reason. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, during his time in Fixed Penalty, before he joined Muse, it is said that apparently Matt joined Fixed Penalty on stage for a cover of Nirvana's Lithium, because their bassist couldn't play the song. After the song, Matt mashed up their whole stage, because they headlined a festival and Matt's band didn't. Boo-hoo. It is also said that Chris was kicked out of Fixed Penalty because he admitted to liking the band Status Quo, which was seen by the rest of the band as not cool enough. He later went on to play bass for Matt and Dom's band. Chris has 10 kids. That is not an exaggeration, he literally has 10 kids. Chris also likes football, soccer, and sometimes organizes matches while on tour between the Muse FC, which consists of Chris, the tour staff, and Chris's kids versus some fans or local football clubs. Chris can also sometimes be a fashion icon, but he is also a headbanging king. Okay, so let's move on to the formation of the band and their different eras. Okay, so in the early 1990s Dom started a band called Carnage Mayhem. Matt saw this, and auditioned to be the guitarist and vocalist. He succeeded, of course. Anyway, they renamed the band to Gothic Plague. Eventually, they asked Chris to be their bassist, since they needed one and Dom was already the drummer. Chris agreed. And then they changed their band name once again. God fucking damn it, make up your minds already, lol. Anyway, they changed their name to Rocket Baby Dolls. In 1994, they signed up for a battle of the bands and won. After this, the members quit their jobs to be full-time musicians, and once a fucking game they changed their name, thankfully one last time, to Muse. They changed it to Muse because they said it looked cool on gig posters, which, I guess, it does. Okay, so after Muse became an actual band and started recording stuff, they recorded a couple of demos called the This Is a Muse demos. These were released in 1995. Eventually they got around to recording the new Abbott demos, which were released between 1996 and 1997. Some of those demos became B-sides and actual tracks on their first and second albums. The Muse EP was then released on May 11th, 1998, and then the Muscle Museum EP was released on January 11th, 1999. Then finally, after all that hard work, Muse released their first studio album Showbiz Worldwide on the 4th of October 1999. There were 50 or so tracks written for it, but only 12 were included in the final cut of the album. That number became 13 after Spiral Static was released as a Japanese exclusive. Some of the more experimental tracks were put out as B-sides, or featured in the Hullabaloo soundtrack B-side compilation. The album had an alt-rock sound with influences from classical, jazz, blues, and Latin music. The title track Showbiz featured Matt's highest note he's ever hit on a studio recording. The album had angsty and somewhat questionable lyrics to it, LMAO. Anyway, some of the problems that critics had with the album was that they thought Matt sounded like Tom York from Radiohead. The album received mixed to positive reviews.
You sound like Radiohead.
After finishing the Showbiz tour, Muse started to record songs for their second album. They actually played some of the songs live prior to the release of the album. Eventually they released Origin of Symmetry on the 18th of June 2001. However, it wasn't released in the USA until 2005, since the label they were going to release it through wanted Matt to re-record the vocals with less falsetto, to which he disagreed, and they parted ways. The album has 11 tracks with a Japanese exclusive, which brings the total to 12 tracks. It has a space feeling to it with more classical music influences. The title is inspired by the book Hyperspace, which Matt read. Rather than having more angsty lyrics like Showbiz did, Origin of Symmetry focus more on sci-fi, surrealism. The album's aesthetic is mainly space-themed. The album is space. We love space. It is recognized as one of the greatest rock albums of the 2000s. It has a cover of Feeling Good, which is a song for Broadway by Anthony Newley and Leslie Bricusse, that was later recorded by Nina Simone a year later. Matt used a lot of fuzz effects on the guitar. Chris's bass was more distorted and defined. And also Dom used Animal Bones in the recording of Screamage's drums. Matt's highest note is also used again on this album on microcuts. Also, while we are talking about Matt, I should probably mention that he lied to a priest in order to use a church's organ to record Megalomania. Basically, he went to a church and was like, "Hey, I want to use your organ for something," and the priest was like, "Okay, can you show me the lyrics to your song?" And oh boy, did Matt pick the perfect song to want to use a church organ for it, LMAO. Anyway, he ended up writing fake lyrics for a made-up song to show the priest, and then they let him use the organ, and he got away with it. Wow, what a savage. I should also mention that Plug-in Baby was featured in the main set list of Guitar Hero 5, in which you could also play as Matt in his 2007 harp outfit. Muse toured this album for about 2 years. For its 20th anniversary, Muse released Origin of Symmetry XX Anniversary Remix. Wow, what a long title. Anyway, they remixed and remastered the album, and highlighted some element buried in the mix of the original version of the album. Before releasing their third album, Muse released a single called The Dead Star in Your World EP on June 17, 2002. It had 2 new songs, both which had music videos to go along with, as well as Futurism, which had previously only ever been in the Japanese version of Origin of Symmetry. It also had a cover of the song Can't Take My Eyes Off You, which Matt has said that for some reason it's very popular in Japan and they always perform it when they go there. Then they released the Hullabaloo soundtrack on the 1st of July 2002, which, as I mentioned before, is a 2-disc release. Disc 1 is a recollection of previous B-sides and Disc 2 is a live album of Muse's performance at Les Zenith in 2001. After some time, Muse put out their third studio album Absolution on the 15th of September 2003. It had 14 tracks, 2 of them being interludes, and 1 Japanese exclusive, which made it 15 tracks long. And yes, they also played some songs live before the album even came out. When deciding on which track to keep for the international release, and which one to use as their Japanese exclusive, Matt and Chris had a disagreement. Matt wanted to keep Fury in the international version, while Chris wanted to keep the small print. They consulted with Dom, and he voted in favor of the small print being kept. Although Fury was later released in the Sing for Absolution single, the band kept more of the same sounds as they did in Origin of Symmetry. However, they introduced electronic music influences, as well as some orchestra element. The album deals with apocalyptic concepts as well as some religious themes. In terms of the artwork, Dom stated that it can either be seen as people coming down to Earth, or leaving the Earth. It's open to interpretation. There are 3 different versions of the artwork. One for the regular edition, one for the special edition, and one for the vinyl edition. The B-sides for this album are amazing. Also, in terms of songs from this album that were featured in Guitar Hero, it was Stockholm Syndrome this time. But this time it was only available as DLC for Guitar Hero 3, and no, you couldn't play as Matt in that game. Also, during the Absolution tour, Muse played what they described as the best gig of their lives, which was when they played Glastonbury 2004. It was so good that they made a DVD of it, which you can easily find online. Shortly after the gig though, Dom's dad passed away. A lot of fans see the Absolution era as Muse's best. But the next one showed that they could indeed get even bigger. Okay, so with this next album, Muse started their 3-year album gap that lasted 5 album cycles that was unfortunately broken in this current album cycle. By the way, no, the Origin of Symmetry 20th anniversary remix doesn't count as an album. Be quiet anyway. Our boys were tired, since for the past 3 albums they were constantly touring like crazy, and also writing while on the road, so they decided they needed somewhat of a break. Except not really. Muse decides that they need to get bigger in the USA. So they embark on the US Campus Invasion Tour. During this tour they performed at various college campuses in America. The interesting thing about this small 22-show tour are the set lists. More specifically, some song names on the set lists. Before releasing their next album, Muse performed some songs from their upcoming 4th album live. However, these songs didn't have titles. So Muse decided to name them after a couple of anagrams. What follows isn't really that important, but I'm going to include it, because I think it's cool. Anyway, these anagrams were debase man
Cold
aqua
frog,
tomatoes
timescale
Monica
keeper,
probes
unpacked
majestic
resident
blue and Swiss Rhapsody, so that whole shenanigan lead to Muse telling fans that somewhere in America there was a signed bike with a check attached to it, which, by the way, apparently they did this 4 times LMAO. Can you imagine being a teenager in America in 2005 and you are a Muse fan and somewhere near you there is a bike or a guitar with the autographs of the band members of your favorite band? Incredible. I guess that extra year of waiting was worth it for most Musers, since their next album is amazing. Eventually, Muse finally released their 4th studio album titled Black Holes and Revelations on the 3rd of July 2006. It had 11 tracks with 1 Japanese exclusive, which by the way this was the last album that had a Japanese exclusive track anyway, that brought the album to 12 tracks. This album once again continued with the same influences as the last album, however they added more new influences to the mix, this time incorporating R&B influences. And also adding way more electronic sounds. Though Matt's lyrics in the past perhaps had some political themes to them, this album had the political themes become more obvious, and were scattered throughout the album, some more in your face than others. Matt sings about dystopian times, corruption, and war. The whole dystopian world theme can be kind of seen by the cover of the album. The artwork is supposed to be the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which you can tell by the little horses on the table. By the way, they're supposed to be on Mars. Fun fact about one of the songs, Knights of Sidonia specifically was inspired by a song that Matt's dad's band called the Tornadoes had written. The song was called Telstar. Also, another thing about Knights of Sidonia is that it was featured in the main set list of Guitar Hero 3. In fact, this is the Muse album with the most songs featured in Guitar Hero. Both Supermassive Black Hole Exopolitics were DLC for Guitar Hero 3. And Assassin was featured in the main set list of Guitar Hero World Tour. When talking about this album, I always have to highlight the B-sides. Crying Shame, which was a B-side to Supermassive Black Hole, was one of the songs performed live before the album came out. It was also the first time Matt cursed in a song. He wouldn't do it again until 2012. Easily was a B-side to Starlight. It might be one of Muse's most beautiful songs ever actually. Here's what Matt said about it when they performed it for the first time until 2017.
Yes! I don't know how that didn't get on an album. I don't know how that didn't make it onto an album. I think we did it on the road. Like we were on the road somewhere and... I know what it was, yeah. Black Holes had just come out and then I just wrote that. It's fucking too late, a little bit too late to get it on the album. Anyway, love that song.
Before we move on to the next era, I must talk about Muse's Harp Live at Wembley Stadium performances. The actual concerts took place during the Black Holes and Revelations tour on June 16 and 17, 2007. There was a CD and a DVD released for both nights respectively on March 17, 2008. HARP is an acronym for High Frequency Active or Oral Research Program, which is a research program funded by the USA that was used to analyze the ionosphere to potentially develop and enhance technology for radio communications and surveillance. Of course, Muse being Muse, they probably used it for its numerous conspiracy theories. Anyway, the set design was modeled after the HARP facility with its radio transmitters and antennas. A picture of these were actually included in the Black Hole's album lyric book. I love this concert with my whole heart. It is iconic as heck. And that's where Muse ends. Wait, no, not yet. But that's where I will end this first part of an unhelpful guide to Muse. There is still so much left to cover. In the next part we will look at the rest of Muse's career, starting with the Resistance era and going all the way to present day Muse. I will probably post part 2 after Will of the People is released, so I can talk about it in the video as well. But for now, this is where we will leave our 3 British boys. I hope you found this video helpful and somewhat entertaining. I put a lot of time into it. Well, anyway, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends and let them know just how obsessed you are with Muse. Okay, bye.